What happened to Roblox? Competitive Roblox games used to give you that rush, the kind that kept you playing match after match, telling yourself just one more. Getting a kill felt rewarding, grinding for achievements actually meant something. But now, almost every competitive Roblox game feels dry, repetitive, and honestly, even pointless. The players who spent hundreds of hours grinding ranks and unlocking rewards slowly disappeared. Player counts dropped, lobbies thinned out, and eventually people just stopped caring. So, what happened? These games didn't die overnight. There wasn't a dramatic shutdown or a huge announcement. Instead, it was something far worse. They slowly became unplayable. And while it's easy to blame developers, the truth is much more complicated. This wasn't caused by one bad update or one bad decision. It was a growing clash between players, developers, and the platform itself. So, what actually killed competitive Roblox games? Before we talk about what went wrong, we need to go back. Back to when competitive Roblox was still thriving, when players from all around the world logged on simply because it was fun. The year is 2017. This was a time when competition actually felt fair. Exploiters existed, sure, but they didn't dominate every single match. Cheating wasn't normalized, and accessing exploits was far more difficult than it is today. Every competitive game had its own community. You'd recognize familiar usernames, you'd see the same skilled players climbing the leaderboards. Developers were actually active and visible. They talked to the communities, listened to feedback, and moderators could actually keep their games under control. Ranks weren't just status symbols, they were a reflection of skill. There were fewer cosmetics, fewer pop-ups, and far less monetization cluttering the screen. Most importantly, developers were passionate. They weren't spending their days fighting hundreds of exploiters. Updates mattered, balance changes mattered, and new content felt meaningful. This was the peak of competitive Roblox. Players rushed home after school or work, telling themselves they played for a bit, only to lose track of time completely. From a creativity standpoint, these were some of the best years Roblox ever had. And it wasn't just competitive games. The entire platform felt alive. But like everything else, this era didn't last forever. Alright, let's fast forward to 2019, the moments Roblox started showing cracks that we see today. This was when Roblox exploded in popularity. Part of that growth came from the early stages of the pandemic. Millions of new players joined the platform almost overnight. A massive wave of younger audiences flooded into Roblox. So, this is good, right? With every popular game, player growth comes with a cost. As player counts rise, so do cheaters. The larger a platform becomes, the easier it is for cheats to spread, and Roblox was no exception to this. In fact, it might have been the easiest target of them all. Between 2019 and 2021, the pandemic was in full swing. Kids and adults were stuck at home with nothing but time. Video games became the main escape. Some players picked up bad habits influenced by what they saw online. Others were just curious, but a lot of Roblox players found something else entirely: exploiting. The sheer number of exploits floating in the market was insane, and the most shocking part, almost all of them were free. Players didn't need money, they didn't need permission. All it took was a download, a few ads, and suddenly they had cheats. Let's be honest, Roblox became one of the easiest platforms to exploit. Everything was accessible, everything was free, and there was almost no real consequences. The results were devastating. Nearly every competitive lobby had at least one cheater. Fair players lost motivation to grind, new players never stood a chance, and winning stopped feeling earned. Slowly, people stopped logging in. It became clear that Roblox wasn't taking security seriously, and competitive games were first to suffer. And this wasn't just hurting players, it was pushing developers to their breaking point. With the massive rise of exploitation on the platform, developers were suddenly swamped with responsibilities they never signed up for. They weren't just game designers anymore. They had to become anti-cheat engineers, moderators, investigators, and community managers. Roles they couldn't have imagined taking it on. Based on Roblox's track record, many developers realized the platform itself wasn't going to fix these problems. So they were forced to take matters into their own hands. Instead of building maps and designing updates, their time was spent hunting down cheaters, banning accounts, and patching exploits. The exploits that Roblox should have been patching themselves. At some point, developers stopped being creators and became security guards. One experienced exploiter even admitted how fragile the system was, saying, "DLL injection is easy to prevent. They cannot be bothered with enough to do it, or are edging towards being against it." I saw a thread on the devs forums by Jason Fish 4 about it a few years back, but it was shut down with arguments like, "It's false positive prone and nearly impossible." This workload was simply unsustainable for most developers on the platform. All the effort they put into making their games enjoyable felt meaningless when exploiters could create new accounts in seconds. Roblox bans became nothing more than a signal to come back under a different name. Every update developers pushed out only created new vulnerabilities. Exploiters would bypass patches within days, sometimes even within hours. Moderation teams grew larger and larger. Some studios had more moderators than actual developers. Eventually, developers reached their limit. One developer, LMH Hutch, described the situation clearly. "It is exhausting and demoralizing dealing with exploiters all the time. The enjoyment I get out of developing games on Roblox doesn't even start to outweigh the burnout myself and my moderation team suffer through. It's so much larger an issue than just an anti-cheat problem. And it never feels like any meaningful progress is made by Roblox to assist developers with these issues." And it wasn't just developers who burned out, players did too. At first, players tried to ignore the problem. Only a few lobbies had cheaters, and people believed it wouldn't last. But as player counts continued to rise, so did the number of exploiters. Cheating became more common, and the trust players once had in competitive games slowly faded. Losing wasn't just a skill issue anymore, it became a platform issue. The players who cared more about competition were the first to leave. Rank grinders and longtime fans stopped logging in because match after match was ruined by exploiters. These games no longer rewarded effort, leaderboards lost their meaning, and even basic matchmaking turned into a paradise for cheaters. What once felt fair now felt pointless. As time went on, cheating became normalized. Some players even tried to justify it, saying it was the only way to keep up. If you lost to someone, you assumed they were hacking. If you won, they assumed the same about you. When everyone suspects everyone else, competition loses its purpose. Slowly, competitive games began to change. Ranked modes were deprioritized. Casual lobbies replaced serious gameplay. Skill-based systems were pushed aside in favor of anything that could keep players from quitting entirely. What was once a community built on improvement became empty servers filled with frustration and forgotten leaderboards. There were no massive announcements, no final updates, no dramatic shutdowns. Competitive Roblox didn't die loudly, it faded away. And most players didn't even realize it was happening until it was already gone. I want to start by saying this was not a widely discussed issue or trending topic for players to talk about. The reason is simple. The platform kept evolving and growing. As more players joined Roblox, more games appeared. New experiences filled the front page, and players slowly shifted from competitive modes to more casual ones without even realizing it. To most people, nothing seemed wrong. Roblox was still alive, still popular, and still changing. There were no massive headlines about competitive games disappearing, no announcements, no dramatic shutdowns. They just all faded out of relevance. Even when many competitive games were close to being dead, Roblox eventually had to respond. But as always, that response came late. Roblox made major improvements to its anti-cheat system, making exploiting harder than it has ever been. Security became a priority, cheating became more difficult, but Roblox didn't truly fix the competitive community. They only put a band-aid on a wound. Which leads to the question, is it too late for competitive Roblox to return? Competitive Roblox may never resemble the same form it once had, but that doesn't mean it can't be rebuilt in a different way. Games on Roblox are always evolving, and the platform itself is constantly changing. As long as new developers learn from the mistakes of the past, there's no reason competitive games can't find their place again. And this wasn't only a Roblox problem. Many major AAA games suffer the same fate. Cheating has become so normalized across gaming as a whole. With every new game that releases, cheaters follow close behind. And when competition loses fairness, it loses its meaning. What made competitive Roblox special was never just the games itself. It was the trust between players. When that trust disappears, so did everything else. Honestly, my take on this is that as the platform evolved, so did the players, and so did the games that they cared about. Today, most people don't log on to Roblox for a competitive or ranked aspect anymore. They log on to play with their friends, relax, or experience something casual. Roblox has shifted from a platform built around skill and competition into one more focused on just social experiences and accessibility. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing. It makes sense. As players grew younger and larger, The demand for strict competition slowly faded. Fairness became harder to guarantee, and casual play became easier to enjoy without frustration. But something was lost in this translation. Competitive Roblox used to reward effort. It gave players a reason to improve, to grind, and to care about winning. Now, most games avoid that pressure entirely. They trade intensity for comfort. In my opinion, competitive Roblox didn't disappear because people stopped loving competition. It disappeared because the platform could no longer protect it. Trust was broken, and once this trust is gone, competition can't survive. Roblox didn't choose to kill these competitive games. The system simply changed around them, and the community changed with it. Maybe competitive Roblox will never return to the way it once was. But if it ever does, it won't come from nostalgia. It will come from developers who learned what failed, and from a platform willing to protect fair play again.